For today's part of my Best of 2023 series, we're going to platformers. It's finally time to do all the jumping, dodging, and all kinds of air tech as one can imagine, and there's quite an interesting list for our lineup. We're starting off the list with Vividlope, one of those two. This is more on the kind of puzzle arcadey platformer side. It doesn't quite fit like any, I guess, particular genre niche this year. But this is a game where you play as these two adorable little characters who've been sucked into, I guess, like a video game or a television, and now they must paint this gravity-affecting world, one level at a time, to get out. In kind of the similar structure of that, like of a Super Monkey Ball, or one of those other games where it's just level by level progression. While the basics of this game are certainly simple to grasp, there is certainly a lot here in terms of advanced challenges, going for the highest grades, unlocking more and more devious style levels. This one is a recommendation if you're looking for, again, kind of like the older, like Qbert style of kind of like this puzzle platforming where it all doesn't quite make sense from the outside, but if you get into it, there is certainly a lot of game here to enjoy. Our next runner-up is Bat Boy. What happens when you take Shovel Knight and throw through it an entire baseball anime veneer? And that's what you get here. As the titular Bat Boy, you must save your friends, sports-minded superheroes, from being brainwashed by an evil baddie, and you'll need to collect powers, use your baseballs, and your baseball bats in order to deliver justice one swing at a time. If you played Shovel Knight, then this should be more than up your alley for playing through. It is by no means the hardest or the most innovative take, but it's a all-around very solid 2D action platformer. And again, if you enjoy the likes of modern retro platforming, looking for one that you can get through in relatively short order, then this is an easy recommendation. On the Rage side of things, our next runner-up is Bread and Fred. What happens when you combine getting up with co-op platforming? You get a lot of chaos. This is by no means the easiest game or easiest platformer to play, and it definitely comes with the caveat that you're either going to be in for a lot of rage time by yourself or a lot of raging with a friend. It does come with remote play. I don't know they've ever added in online play functionality completely to it. But it's a very great concept on the whole kind of rage-based game, but with a very well thought out and very challenging physics engine to how you swing, grab, and try to use your friend or your partner's stone in order to get around. Again, not for the easily frustrated, but if you and a friend are looking for a very challenging time and don't mind falling down, well, quite a lot, then this is a solid recommendation. We have an old school with a twist for our next runner-up with Forza Polpo, and hopefully I didn't butcher that too badly. This is the game that was heavily inspired by Jumping Flash. It was in early access for quite a bit and was released as of this year. This one goes for first-person perspective platforming, with a variety of jumps and movement tech to go with it. While I did find the tutorial and general onboarding a little bit frustrating in times to grasp, if you get into it, this is a very entertaining and very diverse set of platforming levels and platforming challenges. If you are a fan of kind of, again, the Jumping Flash style, this is where jumping and movement has definitely been built to be on the flowier side, then this is a recommendation for you. If you're looking for platforming that is more very rigid, very more technical and challenging base, then this game probably won't work for you. But I still enjoy what it was trying to do, and it certainly stands out among the entries of platforming. For our next runner-up, we have Frebbventure. You play as a somewhat hero who, after getting knocked out of his house, they decide to go on an investigation throughout the island and world to figure out what is going on while all manner of things are trying to get in their way. This is a platformer that, don't let the retro look fool you. There is a ton of stuff in this game. Every level has bonus challenges. The physics kind of go all over the place, as you'll get access to different kinds of movement abilities. There's items you can equip that change the properties of your jump and movement. There's also additional characters completing their own attacks and their own movement tech. The second character you unlock basically has kind of like the Cape Mario physics style of powers. This is by no means a quick and easy game to play. And if you're looking for a 2D platformer with a whole lot of platforming to go with it, then this is a solid recommendation. And our last runner-up is Planet Cube Edge. This is the challenging technical 2D platformer for the list, as you're trying to save your particular side of a giant cube world from evil. And you'll need to jump, dash, and shoot your way across several environments and lots of challenges and death traps to do so. The game combines kind of the environmental focus and level design of, say, a Super Meat Boy, but with that of a 2D action platformer like a Mega Man or that style. You'll have to air dash and use all your various abilities to survive enemies, hazards, more hazards, and of course several bosses. If you're looking for a challenging 2D platformer, one where there's a lot of action and jumping to go around, this is an easy recommendation. The game does feature difficulty settings if you're looking for things a little bit easier or a lot harder. And again, just another very well executed take on the whole modern retro platforming. And with that, let's get to our top 4 for best platformer, starting with Koa and the 5 Pirates of Mara. This is a 3D platformer pretty much, lock, stock, and barrel in terms of its design. This is by no means the hardest platformer on the list, but it's yet again another very well executed take on 3D platforming. If you're just playing this for the story and just general missions, it's going to be on the very easy side. But there's multiple collectibles, time challenges, MacGuffin hunts, and exploring the world to do. This is the perfect platformer if you're looking to introduce someone brand new to 3D platforming. It is very adorable, very wholesome. Our character and her little pet friend are both very cute to jump, dash, and whatnot around. And there's a pretty good sense of variety with the different levels and different worlds. And while again, it won't exactly compete with the heights of, say, a Pseudo Regalia or the Mario games, it's still a great entry in the 3D platformer space. Now, speaking of another game that kind of capitalizes on a traditional style platforming, the next pick for me is Lunark. This is an adventure platformer in the style of Out of This World, Flashback, and that particular kind of very committed jumping. The game features a wonderful use of rotoscoping, which I think the developer did all of it themselves. The game gets on this list not only being a very well executed take on the genre, but also doing what it can to make it more approachable for modern audiences, with your character kind of auto-adjusting in the air to make certain leaps, cutting out some of the more finicky aspects of the older design. Again, this is a game that it knows what its market is going to be. If your ears perked up at all when I mentioned Flashback and Out of This World, this is a solid recommendation. If you were interested in those games but don't want to go that far old school, then this is a great way to kind of see what this design is about while using it through a modern retro lens. Our next pick is Tiny Thor, a game that is so unassuming, you may think that this is just another bog standard, 2D platformer for the kids. But if you go through this game, you'll find some of the most challenging 2D platforming released in 2023. I like the use of your hammer and the physics that go with it for combat and the variety of puzzle solving. And the level designs really get involved and challenging as you get further in. The different puzzle areas or puzzle specific levels that are bonuses will test your mastery of these skills. This again is on the harder side. Do not let the first world of this game throw you off. Once you start unlocking different abilities and the game really kind of takes off the kid gloves, you are going to be in for a whole lot of platforming and probably a whole lot of platforming pain to go with it. But if you're someone who likes your platforming on the challenging side, then this is an incredibly solid recommendation for you. And last but definitely not least, for the final game of my favorites of 2023 for platforming, should be no surprise at this point, it goes to Pizza Tower. The WarioWare-inspired pizza-fueled platformer. The aesthetics of this one I know are love or hate, depending upon who you talk to, but I love this kind of early to mid-90s like cartoon look and vibe to it. Peppino Spaghetti is trying to save his restaurant, and he is going to do a whole lot of running, jumping, dashing, and even more running to do so. A phenomenal take on 2D platforming. This is a game that marches to the beat of its own drum. And what I mean by that is if you're expecting this kind of platforming or this movement tech to be anything like the other games on this list, it is not. And if you don't learn the rules and the intricacies of how your character moves in the physics, it can be a frustrating time. But if you do learn it, you'll find a very entertaining, very energetic platformer to play. Fantastic music as well, easily one of the best soundtracks of this year. And again, just an all-around fantastic take on basic platforming tech, and then evolving that through its level design. So there's a reason why I mentioned this on my game design guide to learning 2D platformers. So if you've somehow missed this game, and you love platforming, and you love pizza, then why haven't you played it yet? And with that, another entry is down for the count. There's still a few more left before Best in Show. Were there any other fantastic platformers that you played? Let me know in the comments down below, and I will see everyone for our next part and our next award session. That's going to do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to do the YouTubing stuff people tell you to do. If you're interested in more of my thoughts on design, check out my books wherever they are sold. Visit our Discord and Patreon, and come back for daily discussions on game design here, and on game wisdom, where you some of the art and science of games.